All right, thank you everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this webinar or this meetup. I used to be a Sitecore MVP up until I joined Sitecore. So, if you work for Sitecore, you cannot be an MVP anymore, but I'm the one who is managing the MVP program now. So, and this is what I would like to talk about. But, the MVP program cannot exist without the Sitecore community. So in the Sitecore community, we have different pillars where we interact with each other. And the first one is, of course, the Sitecore Community Forum. So if you go to community.sitecore.net, this is what we use for mainly communication and kind of forum, what we own by Sitecore and managed by Sitecore. But there are other channels like the Sitecore Slack, which is managed by the community. And there are more than 6,000 users there, and in more than 50 channels you can discuss things on Slack. And also Sitecore Stack Exchange, which is based on the well-known Stack Exchange or Stack Overflow Q&A framework, was started over 4 years ago, and also managed by community members or moderated by community members. So these are the 3 main pillars for our community, but of course there are other channels, so some people are on Facebook and LinkedIn. Also, there is a Reddit channel for Sitecore, and some group also do things on Telegram. So you can interact with Sitecore and with the Sitecore community in multiple ways. Of course, mentioning Twitter here, which is one of the biggest and most well-known things. So if you tweet anything with #Sitecore, you will reach thousands of people on Twitter. But let's see a little bit more details on some of the channels. As I mentioned, Slack has more than 6,000 users and about 10,000 messages a week in more than 50 channels. And we have 15 moderators, mostly from the community. And this has been started by Akshay Sura back in 2015. So if you have any generic question or anything in terms of one of the products or one of the areas of Sitecore, you can go to the different channels and you can discuss it with like-minded people who might have experience. Some people who just see this the first time, Slack can give you answer in minutes if it's not seconds. So if you haven't joined so far, you can go to sitecore.chat and sign up there. The other one, what I mentioned, is the community Q&A database, which has nearly 10,000 questions and answers. 80% of the questions are already answered with, again, more than 7,000 users. And used to be 10 questions per day. Unfortunately, these days, it's a little bit less. But still, it's a valuable source of information. And if you would like to have your question answered, you can also go to the Sitecore Stack Exchange, and you can present your issue there, and most probably you will get an answer. But also, if you are an experienced developer or you are experienced practitioner of the Sitecore platform, you can also go there and answer questions, which will get you reputation points. And this is also really important that you can grow your reputation on a public platform, which is part of a wider network. So I highly recommend for anyone to go there, ask questions and answer questions. I forgot to mention, but this project was started in 2016 by Mark Cassidy, and now there are 3 moderators elected who are making sure that the questions are asked in a proper way with the proper tags, and making sure that the Q&A website is up to a high standard. Of course, there are other projects like the Sitecore Hackathon, which also started by Akshay Sura. Hopefully you heard about that already, but if not, this is a 24-hour event where teams, usually people of 3 in one team, can build a Sitecore module or something connected to Sitecore in 24 hours. It started back in 2014 with 11 teams, and earlier this year, we had 100 teams, and participating from 25 countries. So it's a really popular event. Usually it's around February, but you should watch the different channels and you will hear about Hackathon, hopefully. We are also here at the user group, so you should know that we have nearly 100 user groups around the globe, which is managed by individuals in their free time, just for fun, just to share information and knowledge about Sitecore. We are really proud of them. And as you can see on the map, really we are nearly everywhere. So hopefully soon we will have some dots in Africa and some other parts of the world. But I'm really glad that this user group exists and they try to bring together the different professionals in the Baltics region. I try to help to get this group born, and I think you can also leverage some connections in the region, also with, let's say, Belarus or Russia or Poland. So I think all of these countries has really good user groups. So you might also want to check out those user groups if you are from the region. And a couple of the user groups back in 2014 told that, why don't they create something bigger than their national user group? And they created this user group conference concept. And since 2014, we had 6 events in Europe, 2 events in India, and 1 event in Australia. Of course, unfortunately, this year, none of the events we could do, even though we had a global virtual user group conference, which was 24 hours. I think it was really interesting to see, how the community comes together, again, sharing knowledge for 24 hours with individuals who are dedicating their free time to manage an event like this. And of course, it involves selecting the speakers and managing the communication around the conference and so on. So it can be a lot of work. So if you want to learn more about these, you can go to sakan.events and you can find more information. Hopefully next year we can meet in person, and also you can be part of the conference happening in Europe, in Hungary, Budapest. So look for the details. And there are projects like Core Sampler, which is a podcast where Derek Dice, which was started by Derek Dysart back 4 years ago, I think, and he produced 50 episodes talking to different community members and introducing them and also their work to the community. And this year I joined Derek and we recorded 50 episodes of the Get to Know an MVP podcast, which is introducing MVPs from the community, their background, how they started with Sitecore, what kind of advice they have for MVP applicants. And this really brings us to the MVP award, because all these community contributions cannot be done without those individuals I just mentioned. And of course, in our community, what we think it's around 30,000 people. We have exceptional individuals who are contributing and participating online and offline in the Sitecore communities and making sure that they are sharing knowledge. So for those individuals, we started back in 2009 the MVP award. And every year, people who think that they contributed to the MVP program can apply after they are invited by an MVP or a Sitecore employee. But we will talk about these details later. So we have an MVP award for those who contribute to the community, but it's really important that this is not a certification, it's just awarding community contribution. So if you want to be an MVP, the question could be why. It's not something that, of course, getting an award is always good, but it's not, the question is not how to become an MVP, but why do you want to become an MVP? And it's really important because, as you heard before, this requires commitment from individuals involving in the community and sharing knowledge, but also this is something that's supposed to be beyond your day job. So you have to really think about why do you want to do this. So you don't really want to be an MVP. You will become an MVP if you are with the community, if you are contributing to the community. And when we talk about the MVP, we need to talk about the MVP categories. We used to have 4 categories. The commerce category is not there anymore because we think that it's more important how you contribute to the community or which aspect of the community you contribute to, and not the product. As Sitecore is growing more and more on the product side, it's important that we don't really focus on the products, but how you contribute to the community. So if you contribute more on the technology side, you should apply as a technology MVP. If someone is working with all the marketing technologies and the marketing automation, and from the strategy point of view with Sitecore, they should apply in the strategy category. And of course, there are many people who are maybe not that visible for the community, but they are there and providing business value and value in general to the whole ecosystem. It doesn't mean that they are selling licenses, and we are counting that kind of a contribution to the community. These people might used to be, developers who are now in a manager role, or they are someone who is ensuring that inside their company, the MVP program is followed, and people in the company are involved with the Sitecore community. So those people can be in the ambassador category. But when we look for the MVPs, we always look for quality over quantity. So it doesn't matter how many blog posts you created, or how many things you have done for the community. It's really important that it's quality contribution. So again, involvement in the different social channels and the different discussion groups and Stack Exchange and user groups. If you are a technology MVP, creating like open source modules, or attending at an event is always good, but speaking at the different user groups or webinars or conferences, this is what we are looking for from an MVP. And basically sharing experience or expertise in any way, should it be a blog post or a podcast or videos or anything what you feel that it really works for you. It doesn't mean that everyone should be blogging. It really depends on your type and your ambitions, what works for you best. So any way you can share your experience or expertise with the community, that works at the MVP program. And of course, we are looking for someone who is doing the work month by month, not just a couple of blog posts in January or a couple of blog posts in November when the MVP nominations are. So continuous contribution throughout the calendar year. This is what we are looking for. And I briefly mentioned the process there, but let's go through in details. So the MVP applications, as I mentioned, starting in November. And so the applicants either needs to be invited by an existing MVP or a Sitecore employee. After that, they get an email. And using that email, they can create an account on the application portal, and they can fill in the application using the form. The questions are also, you can find the questions on Stack Exchange. So if you want to prepare yourself for the MVP application, you can do that. And at the end, you can edit and modify your application as you wish. At the end, you submit your application no later than end of November, which was 2 days ago. So the applications for 2021 are closed now. And we are moving on to the next phase, which is actually the review process. And as much as I run the MVP program, I am running the process. I'm not the one who is deciding who should be an MVP and who shouldn't, but I'm working with about 100 people, including current MVPs who are reviewing new applicants who were not MVPs before, also corporate teams. So in terms of the different categories, for example, for strategy, I'm working with the Sbos and the strategy team inside Sitecore, and also for ambassadors, I'm working with the partner teams to make sure that everyone who is working these people, most probably on a daily basis or interacting with them during the calendar year, have a voice and reviewing these applications, and also working with regional teams. So Of course, it's really important if you work with the community. You also interact with some regional folks from Sitecore, either just asking questions or through pre-sales process or during implementation with solution architects and so on. So about 100 people reviewing all the applications. So every applicant is reviewed by at least 2 different people, and sometimes, of course, the new MVPs by 3 or more. So these needs to be summarized, what I'm usually doing beginning of January, when all the reviews got back from the different people. And I have meetings with these key participants of the review process, making sure that all the reviews and all the verdicts are, when it's summarized, we get to the conclusion that someone should or shouldn't be an MVP. And after these meetings, we have a final decision on who should be in the MVP program for the next year. And when we have the final decisions, a couple of days before the announcement, we are notifying the MVPs. It's not only for 2019, but it's for all the years. And on the day of the press release, which is usually end of January, we notify the applicants who didn't make to the MVP program that year. So hopefully that gives you a clear idea on the process. But of course, after this presentation, I'm more than happy to answer questions on the process and everything else. I have a couple of more slides just to cover here. One is to mention that the MVP program is much more than just an award. We do webinars for the MVPs with the product teams and the different Sitecore teams. We share information with the MVPs, which is under NDA, which means non-disclosure agreement. So they couldn't tell it to anyone else. They have to keep it for themselves. Sometimes we do regional meetings when people are allowed to get together. We have feedback sessions again with the different product teams. We discuss different implementation options for roadmap items and so on. And we do have an early access program where we give opportunity to the MVPs to get access to the new releases of Sitecore, which means that usually a couple of months before the release, they already get access to that, and they can start playing with the latest version. We also have an MVP summit where we usually followed by symposium. We get together and make sure that we share much more with the MVPs, and they have the opportunity to meet the Sitecore executive team and also the Sitecore product teams. So this is a complementary event for MVPs. And of course, there are other benefits like having a license to all the Sitecore software. They have the opportunity to contribute to the Sitecore documentation. Also, they get discounts at different Sitecore events and so on. And the Sitecore Mvp Calendar, I just put here an example. Of course, this is not, unfortunately, not for this year, but in an average year, we announced the MVPs in January. We start with a kickoff webinar in February. We have multiple webinars throughout the year. We have the different user group conferences where also MVPs are involved also in the organization and also speaking at the events. And as I mentioned, multiple webinars during throughout the year. And the early access, usually we release something around symposium. So before that, we have an early access starting. And in November, the MVP nominations are starting again. And the whole selection process starts in December. So this is a kind of example what you can expect if you are in the MVP program. I do have some questions myself, because sometimes when I present this at the user group, some people don't maybe shy enough or don't have any questions. So I prepared some questions, but if you have questions so far, I'm more than happy to answer them, or I can go and ask my own questions.
Yes, we have one question in the chat.
Tamas, Kranti here. So actually you were saying about the Sbos program. Can you please elaborate, because think it's a new thing for us, like not many people know this.
Okay, so Sbos stands for Sitecore Business Optimization Services. So Sbos, the Sbos team inside Sitecore is the one who is helping customers and partners to understand the marketing capabilities of Sitecore, how to set up personalization, how to use marketing automation, what is the best way to use the email campaign manager, and so on and so on. So all the marketing capabilities, all the business optimization part of Sitecore is managed, or not managed, but evangelized using this group called Sbos.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So I have a couple of questions. What are the next events? What you should look for if you want to speak or engage with the community? The next one in March next year, we will have the Virtual Developer Day, which is usually online, again, a 24-hour event where we have usually about 10 to 12 sessions, people sharing their experience with Sitecore. The call for speakers will open soon, so look at the different channels I just mentioned: Twitter, Stack Exchange, also maybe on Stack Exchange, but Slack and the Sitecore Community, and you will hear about the Virtual Developer Day call for speakers. And again, hopefully next year we will be lucky enough to get together, and we will be planning a conference in Europe, in Budapest, Hungary, beginning of June. But this date should be blocked in your calendar, because even if we cannot get together, we will have a virtual user group conference at this date. Also, hopefully, we will be able to go to Australia in August. We have reserved a hotel in Melbourne where we can have the conference, and we had to move it from this year to next year. So hopefully around the end of August, we will have a conference in Australia. Of course, I know that unfortunately not many of us will be able to be there, but you should know about this if you have a colleague down under. Next question, how can I connect with the Sitecore community? So many of the things I already mentioned, but this question was also asked on Sitecore Stack Exchange. So if you go to Sitecore Stack Exchange, you will find this question, and in the answer there are really many good resources listed how you can connect with the Sitecore community. And actually it also lists the different user groups. So the Sitecore user group Baltics should be listed there. So look for this question on Sitecore Stack Exchange and edit it and add Sitecore user group Baltics there. Next question. Yep. Someone? No. Next question. How to get to Sitecore Slack? I mentioned that you can go to sitecore.chat and you can find the information about all the Sitecore Slack, including information about how to use Sitecore Slack and the different channels and so on. But also there's a link to register. And as I mentioned, Akshay and the team of 15 individuals are managing Sitecore Slack, so you can find them there. And thank you for Akshay doing this. Next question: what to do on Twitter? So if you are interested in the MVP program, you can follow at Sitecore MVP, and we share news and important announcements on Twitter. So that could be the first thing. But also, if you are interested hearing about Sitecore MVPs, every year we collect all the Sitecore MVPs Twitter into a list. So you can find the list of 2020 MVPs. And if you follow that list, you follow actually all of the MVPs. And of course, you can follow Sitecore and follow hashtag Sitecore and include in your tweets hashtag Sitecore. And you can learn about the wider ecosystem, and you can distribute your message to the wider ecosystem using these tags. Some more questions. How to contact the Sitecore MVP team? So we have many information on our website, so please check out our website. And if you cannot find the information and you would like to send us an email, use the mvp-program@sitecore.com, and we will be more than happy to give you the information what you're looking for or support you in any other way. Again, how to be involved or how to ask questions from the others in the community, go to the community side. You can go to Slack or Stack Exchange. And also you can listen the Get to Know an MVP podcast on coresampler.fm. And you will learn quite a lot about the MVPs, their background, what they have done to become an MVP, and what are their suggestions to be involved in the community. And with that, thank you for your time, and looking forward to see you in the community soon.
Thank you. Any questions? You can chat. You can place still your questions in the chat or even speak. In the meanwhile, I have a question regarding the Sitecore Developer Day. You mentioned it's 24 hours. So
Yes.
Does it mean that there are different time zones, or what is regarding the content? How is it?
So the content is usually recorded. Okay. And 24 hours means that we have 3 times 8 hours sessions. So starting 9 a.m. Sydney time, and we have 8 hours there. And after that, we have 8 hours in the European time zone. The same sessions are repeated, and 8 hours again for the US time zone. So it's the same sessions are played 3 times after each other. I mean, in the different time zones, the same playlist, and the event finishing 5 p.m. New York time. So from 9 a.m. Sydney time to 5 p.m. New York time, that's 24 hours.
Okay, thank you. And is there any collaboration or team activities? How is it usually going?
We usually set up a channel on Sitecore Slack, and people can, cooperate there or communicate there during the event. But also many people use just Twitter. It really depends on how people interact. But Slack and Twitter is usually the most active one, and also it depends what kind of platform we choose this year. We try to choose a platform which is more interactive, so hopefully people will be able to chat next to the videos. So this will be like a new concept also for us. So hopefully we will be able to do that this year.
Okay, thank you. Also, you mentioned that there are different interest groups, I would say, including marketing technologists. So can you maybe elaborate what is what is useful for this type of groups?
It's sometimes even at the user groups, there are more marketing-focused discussions. We have the first dedicated marketing user group in Switzerland, so that also includes customers and partners, not only developers. And as I mentioned, on Slack, there is a digital strategy channel and so on. So there are different ways to be in the strategy group. We also have a webinar for the strategy MVPs, which was actually yesterday. We had a SMAC webinar, but the recording of the webinars you can also find on the Master Sitecore YouTube channel. So there are, again, different ways to interact with the community if you are a marketing technologist. Also, we have an advisory council. It's called SMAC, Sitecore, Strategy MVP Advisory Council. So SMAC, SMEAC. And you can email them smack@sitecore.com. And this group includes the Sbos team and also some other people who used to be strategy MVPs before joining Sitecore. So you can interact with the SMAC team. And actually, this reminds me that I have to update my slide deck to include the SMAC group there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.